Welcome again. Introduce myself again. I'm Beth, and I'm joined by Joy and Megan, and we're your wonderful student services team at the Fung Institute. So everyone here in the MEng program is a dual citizen, so both of the Fung Institute and of your department. So you have a lot of support. I was also grew up in Berkeley, and I'm a Cal undergrad. Megan is also a Cal undergrad, so we have a lot of information about the campus and the area we're happy to share with you. We really hope that you choose Berkeley. So from a student experience perspective, I just wanted to go through a few more highlights of being a Berkeley student. Or being a Berkeley MEng student in particular means being a part of an energetic, dynamic group of people. You've seen some of them. You'll see 5 more sitting here who are passionate, curious, and committed to their areas of study. And we take great pride in ensuring that our graduate students have a full yet balanced experience during their time here. You will encounter business plan competitions, industry events, student group leadership opportunities, and more to round out your academic experience. The Berkeley MEng students enter into a community of support, guidance, and fun, which we work really hard to facilitate. Alex mentioned I was going to talk about the Entrepreneurship Ecosystem. This is a very hard to read slide about all the opportunities at Berkeley because there are too many to fit really onto one side successfully. Because Berkeley is a hub of innovation and exploration. Ready access to top experts, national labs, Silicon Valley, and cutting-edge companies, it's all here. And we offer extensive resources to help Berkeley graduate students transfer their innovations and ideas to marketplace. A couple examples. The QB3 Garage at Berkeley is a network of biotech labs where entrepreneurs can lay the foundation for new industries, all with the help of faculty. And Berkeley Skydeck, which is right by the downtown Berkeley BART station, is a technology entrepreneurship center established to incubate, accelerate, and expand the pipeline of startups. Every year, about 10 to 20 companies are founded based on innovations and people from the Berkeley campus. And Berkeley graduate alumni include founders of more than 250 companies. So a couple days ago, we just took a few minutes and found events that are happening around us in the last month or so. And this is just a sample of something. So there is so much going on campus for you to take advantage of. As with the Grad Slam, when Kelsey placed 3rd, we have 2 student projects in the Big Ideas Competition Finalist Pitch Day, the Digital Arts Engagement Platform team, and then a MEng startup, which is Open House. It's the Airbnb of work. So look forward to hearing more about them in the future. So everyone is always very excited to see this slide. This is the class profile for you, our incoming class of 2019. As you can see, you're an exceptionally qualified group of students with a high level of academic achievement and excellent research and work experience. You're also a very global program with 41 countries and regions represented by passport. So the competitive application process, we received over 2,200 applications for an expected class size of around 400. And you'll see that the departments vary in size in terms of their MEng class. Now, I'd like to spend a little bit more time on this next slide. This is a snapshot of what a typical year in the MEng program looks like. Lee Fleming gave you a great detail on the business and leadership courses. Those are the engineering topics listed here. And Alex also talked about the Communications for Engineering Leaders course, which is listed on the bottom of your slide. In addition to that, each student takes at least 12 units of technical electives in your area of concentration. So if you're in a general program, that's within your department. If you're in a specific concentration, you have a subset of electives to choose from. And you'll talk a lot more about this aspect of the program, the technical electives, in your department breakout this afternoon, as well as the capstone experience, especially for the EECS department. The faculty will be here to give their capstone pitches. That's why they're starting a little bit early. They need a little more time. The other thing I wanted to highlight about your year in the program is these required leadership boot camps up there at the top. So we start early before the rest of the students get here. So we have campus all to ourselves, and it's a great cohort bonding, cohort building opportunity where we run 2 of the 3 units of your engineering leadership topics during boot camp. So you have 8 days with 3 hours a day of class, and that starts on August 8th. The day before is August 7th. That's orientation, which is a fun day of overview guidance and team building activities. So please mark your calendar. You will need to be on campus August 7th, and then you will be back from winter break a little bit early on January 7th as well. So again, we're trying to pack as much as we can into this 2-semester experience, and also giving you this really great intensive boot camp experience. All right. So the other thing I want to emphasize before we turn to our student panel is the support network that you have here in the Berkeley MEng program. UC Berkeley is a large public university with all the benefits that come along with the huge alumni network, all the libraries, the research opportunities, the labs, just the dynamic environment. But it's also a big place. So we want to help you make the best of your 2 semesters here by letting you focus on the best opportunities for you and help you manage all of that. So again, I mentioned you're dual citizens of the Fung Institute and your department. You're also, citizens of the College of Engineering and Berkeley. You're going to get inundated with opportunities. But please come talk to Joy, Megan, myself, Julie. Our whole team is here to help navigate you through these opportunities. But again, it's not just us. It's your department graduate student advisor, your faculty advisor, your capstone advisors, Wayne and Alex. The list goes on. But I wanted to remind you of that. I myself did a 1-year master's program, and I felt like, gosh, during the second semester, I really now knew, the classes I wanted to take and what I wanted to study, right? And by then, you're like halfway out the door. So, we've been there. We've, heard what the students have experienced, and we want to help you make the best of your time. So please take advantage of us as your resources and everyone else on campus as well. We have a great international population here at Berkeley. So the Berkeley International Office is also a wonderful resource as well. If you're interested in living in a very international environment, I suggest you apply to housing at the International House, which is another great opportunity to have a multicultural experience. So that's it for me. I wanted to give as much time as possible for our student panel because we have a lot of great students here to talk with you. And so I'll invite Joy back up to moderate the panel.
Thanks. So guess what? We get to learn more about what it's like to be a student at Cal. And it's not just strictly capstone related, although feel free to ask questions about that. But we want to learn about the whole year and what you've gone through, right? So this is everyone. So it just gives you a little sampling. We picked people from different departments so we can give you as much exposure to different experiences as possible. So first thing is if you could each give a brief introduction of yourself. Nelly, we'll start with you. So your name, Nelly, where you did your undergrad, your department, and just like the title of your capstone project.
Okay, so my name is Nelly. I'm in the Civil and Environmental Engineering department. I did my undergrad in France in aerospace, and my capstone is about going to market with a software called Design by Morphing.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paris. I'm doing my master's in mechanical engineering here. I did my undergrad in a very different field in chemical engineering at the University of Alabama. And my capstone project is looking at the energy impact of autonomous vehicles, particularly at their potential capabilities to operate engines at their most optimal points.
Hi everyone, my name is Suyasha and I did my undergrad in biotechnology in India and I'm an international student here. And I'm in bioengineering department here. My capstone is about designing system-wide resiliency in case of a pandemic influenza outbreak.
My name is Josh. I did my undergrad in naval architecture and marine engineering on the East Coast in New York. I'm in the nuclear engineering department, and my capstone, I think you guys saw the Kelsey's video?
Yeah.
So same capstone as Kelsey, so an overdue change for medical isotope production.
Hello everyone, my name is Adrian. So I am in the IOR department, and I did my undergrad in France, so in applied math and computer science. And my capstone is the prediction of psoriatic arthritis using machine learning.
Okay, so vast array of experiences. So first question, why did you end up choosing Cal? So Suyasha, if you could go first, and then Josh.
Yes, sure. So I'm straight out of from undergrad, and most of my experience has been in academic lab setting, and I was involved in a lot of research. And I really wanted to understand like how you translate research into product making. And there's no better place than the Bay Area because it happens every time and all the time here. So that was one of the major reasons why I wanted to come to Cal, specifically for this program because it's the curriculum is designed that way. You have technical concentration, you have leadership classes, and the boot camp part of the leadership classes is something that I have really enjoyed, and I think I learned the most in that time. Another reason why I wanted to come to Cal was because of the diversity. I mean, I'm amazed with so many people from so many different countries, and it has been a great experience so far.
So I had actually been in the Bay Area about a year before I applied to Cal. So I had experienced sort of the full spectrum of how awesome it is to live here, and it is as awesome as everyone keeps telling you guys. So being in Cal was a big part, being in California in the Bay Area was a big part of why I wanted to come to this program. And then from the academic side, a lot of it's going to echo what Suyasha just mentioned. The diversity in the student body is pretty incredible. I'd been in the military before this, and as you can imagine, we don't have a ton of international diversity in the U.S. military. And then the MEng program specifically, I knew I wanted to do something with a technical foundation that didn't necessarily involve a ton of research. And I remember a year ago when I was where you guys are right now, they were talking about how all these capstone projects either directly address problems that the industry partners were trying to solve, or in rare cases, and really what I think is really cool, are the actual startups that happened as a result of the capstone. So that was a big part of luring me here. So.
Cool. So a little bit more about capstone. If you could give us a highlight of your capstone project so far, and we'll start with Nelly, and then Paras, and then Adrian.
So as I mentioned, my capstone is about going to market with a given software. So what that software does is that it uses artificial neural networks and genetic algorithm to take existing shapes and morph them into a new one that's more performant. But as Suyasha mentioned, a lot of things are developed in research labs, and when it comes to bringing them to market, it becomes complicated. So our whole capstone is about going to market, talking to customers, figuring what they need the most out of the existing software, go back to the lab, implement this, and iterate over the year. So far, our job has been researching their pain points and see how those pain points translate into a user interface.
That's really cool. Yeah, so my project is actually a bit unique. It's sponsored by General Motors, which is so we've partnered with essentially an industry partner, and we're looking at how autonomous vehicles can potentially lead to incredible amounts of energy saving just through its implementation of operating engines at their most optimal points. And what I mean by that is that we've all been in cars, we've all slammed on the accelerator and slammed on the brakes, we've all seen terrible driving behaviors. And so what that translates to energy-wise is operating your engine at its least optimal point. And if I had a map, I could show you, points depending on what speed you're traveling at and what amount of torque you're applying to an engine, how much efficiency you can get at that point. And so what we're looking at is how autonomous cars can potentially operate at the highest points of that. And so the highlight of my capstone project so far has been we hooked up some Cadillacs provided through GM and we drove all the way from Berkeley to Yuma, Arizona, collecting data along the way about how the vehicle is operating, various test points at about a rate of 10 per second, so 10 hertz. I think by the end of the trip we had like several million data points, and so it was good to see realistically how those data points translate into energy, as well as potentially looking at how autonomous cars can save on that. So driving in some pretty new Cadillacs all the way from Berkeley down beautiful California was definitely one of the highlights of my capstone project.
So Adrian, I know you didn't drive any cars, but what's been the highlight of your capstone project?
So as I said earlier, my project is to predict psoriatic arthritis through the use of machine learning. So psoriatic arthritis is a disease that has very debilitating symptoms that can maim a person, and and its worst effects are uncurable. So the idea is to treat them as fast as possible. And how do we do that? By predicting whether someone will have or not psoriatic arthritis using their phenotype and their genotype. So phenotype like their body weight, their age, how often do they smoke, and their genetic data. So using those that data provided by UCSF, we are building different machine learning models that will predict, hopefully, whether someone will have psoriatic arthritis or not. So it's very interesting because this is a very the use of machine learning and data science for healthcare is really is getting more and more spread across the Bay Area, and it's very interesting because it allows you to, at the same time, it allowed me to learn more in machine learning, more in biology, in genetics, and to help people as I go along. So that's always nice to do.
Great. So next question is, what has been your favorite course here at Berkeley and why? So first, Josh, and then Paris.
So definitely my favorite course was one of the boot camp courses, actually. It was in the spring boot camp. It was called Tech Strategy for Engineering Leaders. It was one of Lee Fleming's boot camp courses, and I didn't think that would be where I would get my favorite course from when I first showed up here. But it's just a completely new way of learning different concepts. And I have a really super vivid memory, actually, of it was the second day of learning this case method of teaching, and Lee Fleming, I think, was asking for some quick feedback from all the students. And he said something like, does anyone have any questions or any ideas or reasons why they aren't really learning as much as they can from this course? And I remember one student raised his hand in typical engineering fashion and said something like, is there any way that we could just get to the answer faster? And I don't say that to make fun of him, but it kind of highlights how radically different that way of learning things is compared to what most of you, I assume, with engineering backgrounds are used to. So that was definitely my favorite course. Yeah,
and I'd echo a lot of the things Josh said. Those fun classes that you get during the 10 days before your actual classes start are super valuable. I guess to give you a different perspective and kind of a departmental perspective, I'm doing my mechanical engineering and controls. And so in one of my classes, we are looking at how to control a drone. So we have these $50 pair of drones. If anyone has seen them, they're got these really crappy sensors in them. And essentially we're tasked with implementing our own control sequence to it. And so initially it was really frustrating because it's not as simple as just holding a controller and flying it. You're actually going into the background of the drone's control sequence in MATLAB and Simulink and uploading your own control sequence. And getting that synchronized with the drone initially was super troubling, but once you familiarize yourself with the hardware software integration, it's been super, super valuable to implement these different control strategies on a drone, which is indicative of kind of what controls engineers do. So getting kind of that experience with that and being able to apply a lot of linear algebra technical skills that we've been learning in the previous semester, as well as what we're learning in the current semester, seeing that kind of come together has definitely been a reason why this has been one of my favorite classes.
So what's one piece of advice that you wish you knew before coming to Berkeley? So Suyasha, then Nelly, and then Adrian.
Yeah, I would say I wish I knew it rains a lot in Berkeley, because it rains all the time and I hate it. It's still raining right now. But on a serious side, I would say to know...
It doesn't rain that much here.
It does. It
To be
rains all the
completely fair, we
time.
had a beautiful spring break.
It's true. This is that anchoring bias.
That's
that we
just
learned
4
in
days
capstone
out of
class.
like 4 months. But yeah, on a serious note, I would say it is really important for everyone to know what you actually want to get out of this program, because the program is just for 9 months and it's too short. And I would suggest that to know what path you want to take after this program and align your classes and your capstone, specifically your capstone with that, is really, really important. Because a year later, when you will be sitting in job interviews or stuff like that, they will ask you about your current research. And if you would say, hey, I'm interested in this, they would ask you like what you have done to work on this interest. So it's important to know, it's good to know to align your classes and your capstone with that path. Another piece of advice that I would give, and I had that before once I started this program, was that when you will join this program, you will see that you can take a lot of classes, be it in technical concentration, you can go to different departments. If you're a bioengineer, you can take classes in electrical engineering, you can take classes at the Haas Business School, and you'll be overwhelmed and you'll try to take all of those at the moment. But I would suggest taking most of your extra classes or extra things that you want to do in your fall semester and keeping your spring semester a little free. Because you will do a lot of things in your spring semester, specifically with your capstone, because the capstone is kind of wrapping up and you will have to put in a lot of time in that. And also you will be doing your job search, and you will get a little, less ambitious as you will be getting close to your graduation. So I would suggest like putting all your energy in your fall semester. That's my advice.
Suyasha was very detailed in like the kind of advice she gives, so I don't think I have anything to add to that. But I would say it's an advice I received when I was in the room like 1 year ago. They told me like it goes super fast and try to make the most out of the experience. And I told myself, well, it's 1 year. 1 year is still long, but actually 1 year goes super fast. So follow what Suyasha said, like coming into the program, be sure of the direction you go into, and make sure that your capstone align with that. So because for example, I'm in transportation engineering, but I'm interested in consulting role. So my capstone is actually product design oriented, so that really helped me. So make sure that your capstone aligns with your final goal. That's the greater advice.
Well, I guess we all found that this year was way too short because it goes really, really fast. There's always something to do, there's always a lot of work during both semesters, even if you don't count the job search. So so you really have to manage what you want to do and when you want to do it. I put even more emphasis on choosing your capstone. It's one of the big aspects of whether a company will give you an interview. For example, recently with a friend, we both applied at the same company. We have more or less the same background, the same undergrad, etc. But her capstone was in autonomous vehicles, in autonomous and image recognition, which was exactly what the company was doing, and my capstone was not. She got an interview. I didn't. She even went further than that because now she has a job offer. So it's really important to have the capstone to have a capstone that really interests you, and that you would feel like you could keep working in that same field for more years. And also when you choose your classes, there's a lot of technical courses that are very technically advanced, but that you would never actually use in a company. So try to have at least one class that teaches you how to employ whatever techniques, whatever field specialization, with examples, projects, things you can put on your resume and things you can brag about in front of an interviewer.
Okay. So the next question is about just living here in general. So it's about housing. How did you find your housing? And do you need a car? So Nelly and Paris.
Okay, so do you need a car? I would say no. Well, I come from Europe, from France, so I'm used to taking public transit, and there is Uber, which is really cheap here. So in terms of needing a car, I don't think you really need a car. In terms of how I found my housing, I started my search around like right now, like you sitting here. I started my housing search at that point. So I would like stroll around in Berkeley, started like to contact real estate agencies. That wasn't very helpful. So I came 2 weeks in advance prior to the start of class, and like I just went to open houses after open houses, and I found an apartment I loved, and I applied, and I got in. There's a lot of scams in Berkeley. I remember the first day I arrived, I was really desperate, and I saw an apartment, and what happened is that they didn't have even like the isolation under the windows. So it was supposed to be the summer, but it was already freezing in the apartment. So like it was really cheap, but like you're still going to live there. So be careful with that.
Yeah, so I'd echo that. There's a lot of scams in Berkeley, and like particularly if you decide to pursue your housing search like from a remote distance, like be really careful with like if you get asked to like send a house like a security deposit, be really careful about who you're sending that to, because like it is notorious for that. But with that being said, if you have the opportunity to come here again before school starts, I'd recommend doing about a week of just like grinding out Craigslist and finding places like good leads to kind of find places to live. And then if you can book like a 2 or 3 day trip here, I think that should, if you're like resourceful about it, be enough to find housing. That's kind of the approach I took. Me and my roommate, or my future roommate, when I was in your shoes, I met him at Visitors Day, and we kind of tackled the approach together. And then he actually came out and was able to secure one of the places that we were looking at. So that's the kind of the recommendation I would give you. And then in terms of like having a car, you definitely don't need one. I would be the one to firmly tell you when I was in your shoes that I need a car. I grew up in Alabama. Like you got to have a car to survive there and like to get around. But once you come here, like it's honestly probably a hassle. I've heard people talk about. I had a friend who actually bought a car after he came here, and he was like, it's a lot of hassle to keep up with. If you ever travel to San Francisco, like parking there is going to cost you an arm and a leg. So public transport's really, really good here. And I'd recommend taking advantage of that. And if you want to get out of town for the weekend, there's tons of like rental places that you can get in Berkeley to go to like Yosemite if you want to go up to Tahoe or travel along Route 1. So that'd be my recommendation if you guys are looking for it in terms of transportation.
Okay. So how did you maintain a school-life balance? Josh. How'd you do that? So Josh, Adrian, and then Suyasha.
That's a really good question. So I'm a big, you were mentioning how it's really important that you pick your capstone based on something you really want to do. So I 100% agree with that. I also am a big advocate of making sure you're working with people that you really enjoy. And so that was a big part of also the capstone that I chose because I knew I was going to be around these people a lot. And so what we do is pretty much, so like our most popular meeting location for like our capstone meetings is in Shires, which you guys haven't been to, I'm sure you will. But then our second most popular is any winery in Napa. And then our third most popular is any house in Tahoe. And so my kind of project group friend base, we try as hard as we can to stay on top of our schoolwork by having fun with it. So we try and just kind of make a trip out of almost every weekend. And we don't really ever fall behind too much in the work or anything like that. So I kind of mentioned it before, but this is a really, really easy place to do that kind of stuff with, given all the different activities you can do. So that's how I've approached it.
Yeah, and well, I would say time management is a good skill to learn, and if you don't know how to do it, you will learn here. No worries. But if you are on top of your work during your week, I would say you would get a lot of time over the weekend to hang out. And as Josh just said, that there are so many opportunities in the Bay Area. Like, there are events happening all the time, and not only like in the city or somewhere. At Cal, you have a lot of opportunities. There are games happening, there are parties happening, and you can just tag along with people. And I would say it's really important to have one, because personally, I took in the fall semester, I took dance classes here at Cal, and I think it's one of the ways to vent out all the frustration and the workload that you have to have a way out. So you would get time for that. It's not, and you have people like Josh. So I have a really interesting experience with that. When I just moved in here, Josh just put it on our MNG Facebook group saying, "Hey, I'm having the Game of Thrones screening. Anybody wants to come and join?" And I was like, I don't know anyone here, and I want to see Game of Thrones, and I didn't have HBO subscription at that time, and I was like, oh no, I have to go to his place. And then I went there, and there were so many other people.
A lot of people.
Yeah, it was really great. It was really great, and we had a really good time. And then we saw the last 2 episodes. Despite having an HBO subscription with me, we saw the last 2 episodes at his place, and like all of us together. It was fun. Thanks.
I want to add also that most people that you're gonna hang around are people from the MNG program, people from your department. Like, there are so many people in the MNG program that you'll keep meeting new faces every day almost. Like, today I met a new person from my own department. I mean, 10th month in, I'm still meeting new people. And you'll study with them, you'll study with them all the time. And after classes, you can all go for a drink. If you have we have classes that finish at 9 p.m., then we directly go. We don't study. We directly go to a bar or something. And we have this, and we eat together. We spend all our time together. Then, as they say, every time you have a chance, we go on a road trip. We went to the Big Sur. We took ski passes for Tahoe. Since you're students, it's way cheaper than for other people. It's still really expensive though. And once we had the ski passes, well, we had to go. So we went every 2 weekends. Every 2 weekends we went. We made sure all our homework was done. And then just enjoy the time you have. You have a lot of holidays, of free time, a lot of weekends, long weekends. If you do your schedule well, you can have during my first semester I had Friday and Thursday free with no classes. So I could I had 4-day weekend every week almost. So with that you can go to trips, you can live your life if you want, You don't have to stay in your room studying or studying all the time.
Okay, so my last question was just about what we talked about. Is there any opportunities for social activities? So I think we just all answered that. So we're going to go ahead and open it up now to more questions from the audience.
I got a question in the back left.
So wait till you have the mic, and then we can get you. Okay.
Do you know of anybody who's commuted to campus? Or since my parents live in San Leandro, I was thinking of the possibility of commuting. Do you know anybody who's doing that?
One of my capstone members, she lives in Fremont, so she has a 1.5 hour commute every day, and she manages just fine. She tends to be more work even on the capstone than us because she always uses like her bar trips to work on the capstone, and she socializes like fine with us. We see her on the weekend, so it's not a problem. I don't think so.
Next question. Okay. Regarding the capstone, because it's been said today that there are requirements when you're selected for a capstone. But say you want to pivot in your career. By default, you're not going to have experience in what you perhaps want to do. So can you do that? Can you select a capstone in a field that you're not really an expert on? And is it smart to do it? I mean, will it take up all of your time?
I would say definitely. I know one person in the nuclear engineering department that is, I think he's in an IEOR capstone. So, I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have other examples, but it's definitely, it's also kind of encouraged too. I know, I think it was a little unfortunate actually that my capstone, we weren't able to grab some, BIOE and MECI students. So within both the student groups and the faculty, it's very encouraged to do that, for sure.
And for like a personal story, I did aerospace as an undergrad. I'm doing CE right now, but my capstone is in mechanical engineering, and that wasn't that much of a problem because you still get to talk with your advisor and he can direct you to the right resources. So for sure, it's going to be extra work compared to someone that have like prior experience in that field, but it's going to be of much added value to you. And in terms of you coming to the MEng and choosing your department and your career path, it all helps with that. So about the trade-off.
Also about choosing, so when you're actually choosing your capstone, you have to write a short note on why you want to do that. So if you do not have a skill set in that particular area where the capstone requires, and you can convince the professor through that one paragraph that you're really interested in doing that, you do land a chance in getting accepted for that. And if maybe the professor is not convinced, maybe he would set up an interview with you and decide that whether you're a good fit for the capstone or not. So you can do that, definitely.
Besides, what some students do is they take classes to learn the skills they need for their capstones. There are lots of level 0 master classes that start from the very beginning, and you can totally take one to get the skills you need in that regard.
Thank you.
There's one down the front.
This is related more to campus activities and it's open-ended. What kind of level of involvement do you guys see or have yourselves in other, say, organizations on campus or clubs, like for the Mechis, like formula racing, or kind of other activities? And do you have time?
So that's a great question. I think people's experiences within MEng will vary dramatically. I've found like between my coursework and capstone project, that's pretty much all I have time to do. Whereas in like undergrad, you can be involved with like 10 different clubs. So I haven't been able to like necessarily expand and reach out into like things like Formula One because in many ways your capstone project is like should be like that extracurricular. It should be like the equivalent of like your master's thesis. So in my case, I haven't, but I know there are students who have gotten the opportunity to get involved into more Cal-based activities outside of the MEng program.
Yeah, I think if you, I wouldn't look at the minimum number of courses you have to take as like a bad thing. So if that's what you end up going with, which is what I'm doing right now because I'm involved in a different program here on Cal as well that takes a lot of my time. I think that especially if you pick the clubs and organizations that you want to join from a professional stance, it can actually be just as, if not more, fulfilling than an extra 2 or 3 classes for that semester. So.
I had two quick questions. Out of 5 of you guys, how many of you, if you could go back, would change a different capstone project? All of them. That's good. That's good. And second question is that, do you guys feel that you're ready to, and you've gained enough expertise in the areas that you wanted to enter the workforce and do what you want to do in life?
I would say, like, again, it varies across the MN cohort and goes back to how proactive you are. So coming from France, you don't get like much room for trying to like put some experience in your curriculum. So coming here, I got involved in a lot of projects with professors and research projects to have those extra skills and try to make sure that my capstone could be used as one of the applicable applied projects for that courses. So in terms of skills, extension of skill set, I would say like it definitely happened, but it all depends on how proactive you are and how clear is the vision you have for your future self.
Okay, and one last question in the back. You'll definitely have more time to see these folks and ask more questions in your department breakouts. After this, we just want to make sure that we continue on schedule. So one last question in the back for now.
I have two questions. Like, can you give me like an overview of your weekly schedule right now, what you guys do, and like how much free time do you have, and like how much time do you spend?
Just one person.
Okay. To give you a quick overview, on Monday I have 1 hour and a half of class. Tuesday I have about 3 hours. Wednesday 3 hours, and then 1 hour and a half on Thursday. So and all the rest of the time it's doing homework. So definitely you can have you don't have that much time in class, but you'll have a lot of homework to do. A lot of homework. You have to work on your capstone. I don't know if they talked about it during the presentation before, but you also have work for classes around your capstone, like industry analysis, different deliverables and presentations you have to make. So you spend a lot of time studying.